Well, this is chapter 12, and in chapter 12 we're going to talk about using the built-in light meter that came with your digital camera. In the first lesson we're going to talk about the different metering modes that come with the camera. The second lesson we'll talk about using your camera as a light meter for manual exposures. And in the third lesson we'll talk about when to bracket exposures and how. The typical digital camera light meter makes available to you 4 different metering modes, and these are usually called something like average, center weighted, matrix, and spot. Average mode is best used for scenes that have even lighting over the entire scene, or over all of the important parts of the entire scene, as is the case with this particular picture, or in which there are so many little components of light and dark that it would just take forever to try to average them all, and easier to do it if the camera just takes everything into consideration. Center weighted metering is the mode that most cameras use most often when you're in point and shoot mode. It's usually the default mode. It may not be on your camera though, so check to make sure. And it's best used for pictures of people and sort of general scenes where the most important information is the information in the center of the viewfinder. The reason being that we tend to take more pictures of people than anything else, and if you're talking about a face or a portrait such as this one, most of the important information is in the center of the screen. That's what allowed us to get a decent exposure with this pretty severe backlighting that we have here. In matrix mode, the light meter that's built in uses several different sensors. Anywhere between 5 and 16 is a typical average, and these each take a reading from a specific part of the screen. Usually the simplest form is there's a center spot here, and then the rest of the screen is divided into 4, and so there's also a sensor for each corner of the picture. And what the camera does is it measures each one of these areas independently, throws out any area that's so far off the chart that it's not going to matter anyway, and averages the other 3, or something like that combination, to give you the best possible overall exposure. The final mode is spot metering mode, and there's usually an area about this big around in the center of the picture that's the only thing that's red. So what you do is you aim your camera at the one thing that's really important to you to get the correct exposure for. In this case it would be these little yellow flowers, and push the shutter button down halfway so you get the proper exposure. Then move the camera to get the proper composition, because the exposure's been locked in when you push the shutter button halfway, and finish pushing the shutter button all the way until the camera clicks and you've taken the picture. And that's all there is to it. Those are the 4 different metering modes.